In the Ask field, typically in the lower right of your WebEx screen, members of the public who wish to make a comment would type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Any other communication will not be responded to. Members of the public, it is not necessary to identify yourself in order to make a public comment. We will be taking comments in the order that they are received. I will call on the member of the public and unmute their microphones. They will have about 3 minutes for public comment. I will give you a 30-second warning. And at the conclusion, we will mute your microphone and move on to the next individual of the public who has a public comment. Please note the Q&A feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. Once unmuted, a member of the public may verbally state their comment. Upon to prevent members of the public from being subjected to profane language. While you are free to express criticisms, for the sake of the members of the public of the call, please do not use profane language when making public comment to the committee. So at this time, I am going to open up the Q&A feature. And members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, just follow the instructions on the screen. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, moderator, that would be okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can go ahead and move on to agenda item number 3. Meeting item agenda.
Apologize,
Go ahead.
I apologize, Rebecca. My internet went out for like a minute there. So thank you.
No worries. Would you like me to go ahead and introduce agenda item number 3?
Yes, so we need to approve the minutes from the May meeting.
Wonderful. So the members were provided a copy of the draft minutes from the May 28th meeting. Do any of the members have any concerns or comments regarding the minutes as they have been submitted? Okay. I don't see any hands raised by our members and nobody's speaking up. So if there are no changes that need to be made, can I have a motion to approve the May 28th, 2020 meeting minutes as submitted?
This is Shirley Worrells. I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Thank you, Shirley. Can I get
I will second it.
with Mina?
Hi, this is Mina Yoon. I second the motion.
Thank you, Mina. And I will go ahead and take a roll call vote. All right. So let's go ahead and get a motion. I'm sorry, we already had a motion, so we'll take a roll call vote for the minutes. Dr. Thompson?
Yes, aye.
Dr. D'Amico?
Aye.
Dr. Singleton?
Aye.
Dr. Quinn?
Aye.
Dr. Davidson?
Aye.
Dr. Yoon?
Aye.
Ms. Worrells?
Aye.
Great, thank you. We have 7 ayes and the motion has moved.
Thank you, Rebecca. At this point, we can move on to agenda item 4, which is the comment, excuse me, received regarding AB 238. However, I believe, Rebecca, you said that there haven't been any comments. Is that correct?
That is correct. There is no comments on this, so we can really move from this. I just wanted to make sure, and I'm so sorry that we did not ask for any public comment on the last agenda item number 3. So if there are any comments, could you go ahead and ask for them now?
Thank you. This is the moderator. Public comment or the Q&A is now open for the members of the public. If you would like to make a comment, click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your screen and click and submit. I would like to make a comment to all the panelists. And this is a friendly reminder to all the committee members and staff, if you can please mute your microphone when you're not speaking, just to avoid the background noise that may be disruptive. Thank you. And committee chair, at this moment, I see no requests submitted for public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes. And do we need to ask for public comment as well on the, is someone else unmuted? I'm sorry.
Yes, this is Karen Halbo, the regulations attorney. And the comments that were the revisions to the text that were then provided to the public in the 15-day comment period that the public made no comment on was requested by the Office of Administrative Law Reviewer. And I would be more comfortable, given that you've distributed it in the materials and the board can see what the changes were and that the board voted to adopt to those 15-day comments, the 15-day changes, so that I can show the OAL reviewer the board saw these and was comfortable with these.
And that's something we need to do even though there were no comments. Is that correct?
Yeah, because this was not that the vote was taken and then the comments went out. It was the OAL reviewer said, these are the changes you need to pass the package. And the exec following the instructions to get it passed did this step. But now is the time for the board to say, we accept that the exec did this step. It's sort of an extra careful, making sure every I is dotted and T is crossed.
Much. Can you help me a little bit on the wording of exactly what you need with that?
It would just be a motion that the board accepts and approves the modified text that was circulated for the 15-day comment period.
Then I move that the board approve the modified text that was submitted for the 15-day comment period. This is Dr. Dara Thompson.
This is the moderator. I apologize for interrupting your meeting. We're trying to get Sabina Knight's microphones to work. So if we can allow for just a moment for a quick connection and mic check for Sabina Knight.
This is Karen. Sabina's been with the board a lot longer than I have, and I would very much appreciate to hear her input.
Thank you for your patience, and we are working on Sabina's microphone.
Hi, this is Rebecca. I just wanted to jump on here. I know Sabina's having some issues getting her mic to work, but the agenda was posted that this is just a discussion and possible action regarding comments that were received. Since the changes to the text, modified text, were not substantive, we did not need to bring the text back in front of the committee for another approval. So I think because of the way that this was agendized, we can just go ahead and move on.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, Sabina.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. WebEx does this to me every single time. I have to re-log in after I've been muted and I want to speak. Yes, correct. So as it was agendized, we cannot approve the text. It was only agendized to approve potential comments. The changes were non-substantive, and the prior motion that the board gave authority to the executive officer to do any non-substantive technical changes is still applicable now. So no need for any motion right now or we can't even discuss the additional changes.
Yeah, Sabina, I was busy searching to see some of my boards we can vote on any matter that comes up, and I was searching through and I did not see that. So you are entirely correct. I was thinking we had that option and it's not available here.
Thank you. I appreciate both of you guys weighing in on that. So I think that
Thank you so much. So do we need to call for public comment on this particular issue on the AB 2138 at this point?
This is Sabina. No, we're just going to move on to agenda number 5.
Wonderful. And I believe that's the budget item.
That is correct. And providing today's budgetary update is Carl Bierman. Mr. Bierman is the committee's budget analyst from the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Good morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes, Carl, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. I am going to provide you a brief budget update. The first thing I'm going to cover is the fund condition, which is what's on the screen right now. This first section of the fund condition shows the committee's overall revenues, both actual and projected for current year and beyond. As you can see, your revenues are growing largely due to the recent fee increase, and everything looks healthy. Moderator, can you scroll to the next page, please?
This is the moderator. I believe there's only one page for this item. Moderator, can you confirm?
There should be a expenditure section. Should have been a 2-page.
This is the moderator. This is the only slide that I have on this PowerPoint. If we can have one sent over to us, I will go ahead and display the second page. I don't have the second page at this time.
And this is the moderator. Sorry to jump in again. I believe there is a second page if you click on to the second page.
This is the co-moderator. Nothing gets by me twice.
Is it possible to rotate it clockwise, please? There we go. Thank you. Okay, so this is the second part of the fund condition. This is your expenditures. As you can see, versus prior year, expenditures are going down. And that's largely due to the Division of Investigation 2-year roll forward charges going down. There was a large credit to the committee this year. So that's why you see almost a $100,000 appropriation decrease. So overall, if you look at the bottom number, the months in reserve, the committee's reserve, it is growing. And I see no issues with the committee's fund. It's healthy, and there's no red flags for the DCA budget office. At this point, are there any questions on the fund condition? All right, I don't see any hands getting raised up. So
Carl, how many months in reserve are recommended?
Well, recommended and what's the cap is are two different things. So Business and Professions Code section 128.5 limits all DCA programs to a 24-month reserve cap. So if the committee starts approaching that, you'd be looking at a possible fee decrease, but that's several years in the future. And as we all know, costs tend to go up, not down over time. So I'm not really worried about that. But most programs try to maintain between a 12, somewhere in that window between 12 and 24 months. So I think you guys are right in your target. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We can move on to the next section, which will be the expenditure and revenue projections. Thank you for rotating, monitor. So this next document is the committee's expense projection for this year. As of right now, we only have fiscal month 3 data available to us, so that's through the end of September. I'm hoping to get that caught up. Due to fiscal and year-end processes, accounting is kind of backlogged this time of year until they get prior year closed. So I should be able to get an update for you in the next month or so. That's a little more current. But as of the end of September, your projections look good too. You're well within your resources. And you're projected to revert about 31,000, which was about the same that you reverted last fiscal year as well. So expense-wise, you look healthy. Yeah, nothing really stands out as a red flag to me on this section either. So. Did anyone else have any questions about the expenditure projections? Okay. No questions. I'll go ahead and move on to the revenue projections, which will be the next slide, please. All right. So here is the committee's revenue projections. This is also as of fiscal month 3. If the trend continues in fiscal month 3, spread out all 12 months, you're projected to collect around $568,000 in revenue, which is very healthy. In fact, it's a little bit more than what we projected when we were putting together the governor's budget for this year, around this time last year. So overall, you're collecting a little bit more than what you're spending, which leaves room for the committee to grow a little bit. So I would recommend if there's anything that the committee needs, we can start considering budget change proposals in future years. I know Enforcement expenses are typically larger than what you're budgeted for, so I would recommend that we submit a budget change proposal for that, as you would be able to absorb the cost now. Overall, everything looks healthy. Your expenses are on track to be similar year over year, and your revenues are more than what you're spending. So in closing, there's no concerns from the DCA budget office regarding your fund expenses or revenues.
Carl, this is Greta D'Amico. So the budget is July 1st to June 30th. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the government.
And so the year to date on this was only 3 months of.
It was
from July
through September. Yes. So it was the first quarter.
Okay. So that's a pretty big difference if that was true in the delinquency fees. And I was just wondering, maybe Rebecca has insight if that's true, or if there was just a bunch of them that happened in that 3-month period that's artificially inflating the projection.
I would think that is probably the case. We don't tend to have very many delinquency fees, but there's sometimes that it does happen. So, another thing is when a person goes into their 3rd year right before their license cancels, if they come back, they have to pay 2 years of delinquency fees to get caught up, to get done. So sometimes the delinquency fees can be a little bit higher depending on how many people are coming back after a very lengthy part of time.
So do we really need to worry about a budget change based on just 3 months of data? Since we're not really sure, that was pre-COVID and everything, things might look quite a bit different.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to worry about one, but I'm just saying that your fund is healthy enough to where if there's anything that you foresee that you may need, we can start considering a budget change proposal for that. I'm not worried about hitting your cap in the next, 4 or 5 years. So anytime in the future, if something pops up that you guys need, we can definitely address that for you.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dr. Thompson. What's the timeline on us submitting a budget change?
Like as far as timeline goes?
When during the year do we do that? Can we do that at any time, or does that have to happen at a specific time?
So a regular budget change proposal we would submit around June for the upcoming, we start working on it before June, but you probably start in like March working on developing the proposal, and directions get sent out to the programs every year. I can work with Rebecca on that this coming year, but the way the budget cycle works is we'll start working on it in March, we'll submit them in June, and they don't get approved till about the end of December, before the governor's budget comes out on January 10th each year. So on January 10th, this coming year, 2021, the governor's budget will be released for the upcoming fiscal year. So 21-22 fiscal year. So coming up in, March, April-ish, we can start working on a budget change proposal, but it wouldn't take effect till 22-23 if it were approved.
Thank you so much. So that would be something, Rebecca, would that be something we would discuss at our next meeting if we were going to change the budget?
Yes, that would definitely be something that we would like to speak about. I know that, we've talked in the past about our line item being kind of goofy, and that we really wanted to see the line item be more accurate to represent what we actually use every year. So yeah, enforcement has always been a $5,000 line item, and one case definitely goes way above the $5,000 mark. So that is something that we should probably look into.
Yeah, and that's fairly common every few years. sometimes it goes longer than a few, where programs try to true up their line items like that, especially in the operating and expenses sections. Any other questions at this point? All right. If not, I'll conclude my presentation. And as always, if you have any questions that you didn't think of, go ahead and forward them to Rebecca, and I will answer them for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So at this point, I would ask for any public comments on this agenda item.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A. Members of the public, if you would like to participate, click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you so much. And at this point, we can move on to agenda item. I'm sorry, whenever I open up the window, I can't see my agenda anymore. So, we're moving on to agenda item number 6, which is the report and update from the DCA. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Thompson and committee members. I'm Carrie Holmes, Deputy Director, Board and Bureau Relations at the Department of Consumer Affairs. Thank you for inviting me to provide a department update to the Naturopathic Medicine Committee. I was appointed by Governor Newsom to serve as the Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations beginning June 1st. I most recently came from the Senate, where I was Legislative Director for Senator Jim Bell. Before my time in the legislature, I served at the Secretary of State's office as an assistant deputy. I've always been passionate about consumer protection, and I'm very happy to be here at DCA working with all the boards and bureaus. I'm part of a new leadership team, as you know. In January, Governor Newsom appointed Lourdes Castro Ramirez as the Secretary of the Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency. In March, Governor Newsom appointed Jennifer Simoes as DCA's Deputy Director of Legislation, and Megan Allred as Assistant Deputy Director of Legislation. Finally, in April, Christine Lally was appointed by Governor Newsom as the Chief Deputy Director of DCA, and she joined us in July. Now that Director Kirkmeyer has her team in place, she can devote even more time to her top priorities. One priority is regulations, improving timelines and transparency. DCA's regulations unit was created by DCA Legal to directly assist boards and bureaus with regulations packages. The department also developed an online system to electronically manage and track regulations packages and streamline their review, called Sharewell. Sharewell testing with a pilot cohort is complete, and there will be regular check-ins with the pilot groups to solicit feedback to determine next stages of the rollout. Our work continues even though COVID-19 has changed the way we do business now and in the future. After a temporary closure in March due to state and local stay-at-home orders to prevent the spread of COVID-19, DCA offices remain open with preventative measures to safeguard the health and safety of our employees and visitors. DCA continues to partner with the Governor's Office and Business, Consumer Services, and Housing Agency on statewide efforts related to awareness and enforcement of public health measures. The economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and unprecedented wildfire activities are expected to last for several years. The state needs to take immediate action to reduce costs and maximize efficiencies to support all Californians. In April, DCA and all boards and bureaus worked to limit expenditures and hiring to only those necessary to support core functions and emergency response activities. Additionally, DCA learned in late November that the department and each board and bureau will be required to plan for a 5% permanent budget reduction no later than 21-22. DCA has begun working with your executive officer to identify a plan that will best fit the committee's operational needs. DCA would like to thank the committee and staff for your continued service despite these challenges. I would like to update you on some of the work Board and Bureau Relations is doing to support Board and Bureau executive teams. Board and Bureau Relations has put on 3 virtual brown bag trainings this fall to provide executive officers the opportunity to learn and discuss best practices on topics such as appointments, managing staff remotely, and providing ADA compliant meeting materials to board members and the public. I'd like to thank Rebecca Mitchell for her participation in this last training. You'll be proud to know that DCA asked her to give a presentation as a model of excellence for small boards, always providing timely and ADA compliant materials on an easy to navigate website. I look forward to getting to know you better. In the meantime, if you have any questions or need anything from DCA, please don't hesitate to reach out. Board and Bureau Relations is here to help. Thank you again for inviting me to your meeting. That concludes my presentation, and I'll hand it over to Chair Thompson.
Thank you so much, Carrie. We really appreciate you being here. Do we need to ask for a public comment on this one? I apologize.
This is Sabina. Can you hear me this time?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So if the board members don't have any questions for Ms. Harris, then we can open it up to a public comment.
Are there any questions from the members first? Seeing no hands raised, I'm going to open it to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A at the request of the committee. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, click on the Q&A icon located at the right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. And at this point, we will be moving on to agenda item number 7, and Rebecca will be giving us her executive officer update.
Great, thank you, Dr. Thompson. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start today's executive officer report with the staffing and office. The committee was understaffed for an 8-month period while its sole analyst was out on an unplanned leave of absence. During this time period, all the committee's workload was diverted to the executive officer. Everything was processed within normal timelines, and there were no backlogs during staff absence. On 10/13/2020, staff was allowed to return to work and resume duties on a half-time basis. The executive officer will still cover any duties that are not currently performed by the analyst until she can come back full-time. All staff remain working within a hybrid telework system without any issues. While all state agencies are being asked to reduce expenditures, the hybrid telework option can assist with office space cost reductions in the future. In addition, we will continue to do our part in reducing carbon footprint and allowing staff a better home work-life balance. For COVID-19, on March 30th, 2020, Governor Newsom issued Executive Order N3920. This executive order authorized the Director of the Department of Consumer Affairs to waive any of the professional licensing requirements and amend scope of practice in Division 2 of the Business and Professions Code and Regulations. In addition, DCA 2001 continuing education was put in place, which allows active licensees to renew their license without meeting the CE requirement. Licensees would need to meet their CE requirement within 6 months of the end of the state of emergency. DCA 20-02, reinstatement of licensure. Inactive licensees could reactivate their license without fees and other requirements for the duration of the state of emergency. On September 23rd, 2020, Director Kurtmeyer issued an order waiving the restriction on internet-based continuing education training for chiropractors and naturopathic doctors. This waives California Business and Professions Code Section 3635, Subdivision A2, to the extent that it limits to 15 hours the maximum number of continuing education hours that may be completed through computer-assisted instruction, subject to the condition that such instruction consists of internet or web-based courses that allows participants to concurrently interact with instructions or presenters while they observe the courses. So we are doing everything that we can to make sure that our licensees stay licensed during COVID so that they can continue helping the patients in California.
Rebecca?
Yes.
This is Greta D'Amico. And just to be clear, this waiver pretty much states how our committee already functioned in terms of we're allowed 15 hours of non-concurrent interaction, but basically like pre-recorded.
Yes, it's waiving that because our code currently restricts anything over 15 hours of pre-recorded CE. So it has to be live. And you had 15 hours that you could do that were not live. That exemption has waived that so that right now CE hours can be pre-recorded. They do not have to be live in person or like a live webinar.
Got it. Thank you. I read that over and over again and kept trying to, I think it's just anyway, thank you.
No worries. And I see Dr. Thompson, I think, may have a question as well.
Yes, this was concerning the exemption from continuing education up to past the state of emergency. So
yes.
Are we still, I'm embarrassed to ask this question, are we still in a state of emergency in California, and what's the timeline on that?
Yes, so the state of emergency is lifted when the governor lifts it, and then at that point, they have 6 months to make sure that they have met their CE requirement. But I can tell you that the majority of our licensees are choosing to go the route of waiving live hours. They are still getting their CE done. They're just doing it in a different manner.
I'm sure that is a relief to you, so you don't get a lot of submissions all at once. 6 months.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Right now, just to clarify, our licensees have 2 options regarding continuing education. The first option is that they can wait and put off their CE requirement until 6 months past the state of emergency being lifted in California, which has not yet happened. And the second is that they can do their hours as previously prescribed, the 20 hours of farm, etc., but they don't need those to be live hours. They can all be done online at this point.
That is correct, yes.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and give my licensing report. The table that you see right now shows the number of licensees practicing under the committee's jurisdiction. The NMC's total licensee count as of November 23rd, 2020 is as follows. Active and current licensees, we have 889. Inactive current, there are 23, and there are 155 licensees in a delinquent status. The total number of licensees under the NMC's jurisdiction at this time is 1,067. Moderator, thank you. All right, for the enforcement report, currently the NMC has 65 total enforcement cases open. Of the 65 cases, 20 of those are against licensees, while the remaining 45 cases are against unlicensed individuals. The unlicensed activity still remains the largest portion of the NMC's enforcement caseload. This is the lowest percentage of the enforcement cases against unlicensed activities in the last 5 years. It does appear that the educational material that the committee sends out upon an initial complaint may be in part assisting to lower those numbers. We hope that continuing our educational and informational outreach campaign will keep the trend of lowering the unlicensed activity. Unlicensed activity consists of all of the following: using the naturopathic doctor or the ND title, not providing a written disclaimer of unlicensed practice to their client and having a signed copy by their client on file. They are either providing diagnosis or providing treatment within the scope of a naturopathic doctor. Would you please go to the next slide? Thank you. All right. Types of licensee violations. Currently, the NMC has 20 total enforcement cases opened on ND licensees. Of the 20 cases, the breakdown of violation types are as follows. Advertising violations, we have 8. Failure to update address within the committee is 1. DUI-related violations are 3. 2 of these were based on applicants who provided prior conviction information during the application process. Unprofessional practice, there were 5. Not releasing records in a timely manner, 1. And death or patient harm, there were 2. Would you please go ahead and thank you. Really quick, did anybody have any questions about the licensing or enforcement for our members?
Rebecca, can you say more about the unprofessional practice, what that may have meant?
So unprofessional practice, we can get things in here stating that a doctor didn't do a necessary test that they should have, or that they prescribed something without making sure that they weren't being prescribed by somebody else. So those are types of unprofessional practice. And I can't really give out any more specific information, but those are the types of things that we are getting in that.
So these are allegations or open cases, but not necessarily resolved, decided, or considered a violation at this point.
That is correct.
We probably shouldn't call them types of licensee violations since we're not sure they did it yet.
Yeah, but they're still broke down into a violation category. So,
okay.
Yeah, all right. It's just the easiest way to put it out there. But yes, those they're basic, things that we get here commonly. Okay. If there are no other questions,
Rebecca.
Yes.
Hi, it's Dr. Thompson. Yeah, I was just wanting to similarly ask with the advertisements, is that things like using the term physician, like what sorts of things are we looking at there?
Sure. So the advertising, unfortunately, no, it's not using the physician term. We actually did have somebody that was using the physician term, but they had just come here from Arizona. So they used their website for both their Arizona license and California. So we just kind of had to tell them that here in California, they could not use the physician title, which to them made no sense, but they agreed and they went ahead and just made a different website for California. So it is kind of silly, but unfortunately it is the law here in California. The other advertising violations, the common ones are putting, that A sign outside for, vitamin B shot injections, happy hours, where they're giving a discount for a very limited time and not everybody gets the same discount. So those are the types of advertising violations. There was another one that unfortunately was saying that they could keep people from getting COVID. And so the wording, we have to be very careful with the way that they word things. So that was just kind of an educational piece. When we get things like that, we have to tell them they have to be very careful about the way that they word things, especially when it is kind of involving the COVID. So those are the types of advertising issues that we have.
May I ask a question about COVID for a moment?
Sure.
This is Greta D'Amico, and I'm sorry if there's a way to raise my hand. I do not see it on here. Is there?
Yes, there is. Right down underneath the participants, you should see a little hand-looking thing by a megaphone. If you click on that button, it'll raise your hand and it'll also lower your hand.
Okay. So I saw, I think yesterday on the governor's website that they are going to look at starting to activate retired physicians and nurses into the system because of the surge. And
Right.
I just wondered if you have heard anything about, there are many medical professionals kind of in the volunteer pool potentially that could be activated in the future. I'm not sure that naturopaths are anywhere near the front of that line, but have you heard anything about that or gotten any sense?
No, from as far as I know, everything is still going through EMSA. So if there are licensees that are coming into the state, we have actually a couple from Washington and Oregon right now that have come into California to assist. And they have signed up through EMSA in order to be on that front line.
And EMSA is the California Volunteer Network? Correct.
It's the emergency. I can't remember the whole name, but yeah, it's kind of what they have to go through, and they're the ones that are spearheading that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Dr. Yoon, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to know for the enforcement statistics, is it based on the formation of the MMC? Is it like a total running, or is there a time period in which numbers?
So these are still ones that have not been concluded yet. These are still open and active cases.
Okay. And do we have numbers for ones that were closed?
I don't, but I can definitely get that for you.
Okay, just interested. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Dr. Quinn, you have a question?
This is the moderator. I can unmute Dr. Quinn's line. Dr.
Great.
Quinn, I will be unmuting your line right now.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, very good. No, I'm curious. The number of violations relative to the total number of licensees seems to be a small percent. Is that something that's tracked over time, or are number of violations as a relative to the total number of licensees going down or up over time?
Yes, Dr. Quinn, that's a great question. Every year, every single one of the programs underneath the Department of Consumer Affairs has to do an annual report. Within that annual report, there is the licensee population, and there is also a enforcement data that shows the caseload, how many days it took to close a case, how many cases were closed, that type of thing. So yes, there is data, and it goes back as far as I know, since we've been a committee at least. And I'm sure that there are some archived information from when we were a bureau. If you guys would like, I can put together a spreadsheet with that information so that it's all in one place. If you'd like me to, I can go back about 5 years and give you that information.
Oh, I don't know if others on the committee would find that valuable.
If you're interested in it, others may be as well. And it's very easy for me to do. I could probably do it within a half an hour. So I absolutely can get that to you guys.
Okay, thank you.
This is Dr. D'Amico. I think that would be a great idea, just so that we have trends over time that we can keep in mind for future strategic plans, efforts, and education efforts.
Wonderful. I can definitely do that. All right. No other questions?
I've had my hand up for a while now. This is Bruce.
I'm sorry, Dr. Davidson. There you are.
Now.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you very much. I'd be interested in whatever else can be said about the category of death or patient harm for the reported problems there.
Sure. Unfortunately, I cannot give further information about them because they're still open cases. These did not result in death, but it was patient harm. And anytime patient harm occurs, we have to investigate it. So there are 2 open cases right now that collate with the patient harm violations.
I see. Okay, that's helpful to understand. Yeah, for me anyway, that category is the one that's of greatest interest.
Yes, absolutely. Any other questions? Okay, if your hand is still raised, there you go. All right, so let me go ahead and move on to our Oversight Sunset Review information. The Senate Business, Professions, and Economic Development Committee and the Assembly Business and Professions Committee have postponed Sunset Review Oversight for a number of programs that would have otherwise been scheduled for review in 2020-2021. SB 1474, chaptered by Secretary of State on 9/29/2020, was amended to extend operations for the following entities for 1 year until January 1st, 2023. Naturopathic Medicine Committee is one of them, the Board of Chiropractic Examiners, California Council for Interior Design Certification, Occupational Therapy Board, Physical Therapy Board of California, Respiratory Care Board, and Speech Language Pathology, Audiology, and Hearing Aid Dispensers Board. Unfortunately, it appears that the Board of Registered Nursing will still be reviewed as scheduled in 2020-2021. So I know that we were in hopes that we could discuss with the Board of Registered Nurses and both of the associations, the CNDA and the Registered Nursing Association, to make some changes to both of the acts while we were in sunset. Unfortunately, both acts are not going to be open at the same time now, so that is going to throw a wrench in it a little bit, which means one of us are going to have to reopen our act if we move forward with those changes. So that is an unfortunate circumstance, and unfortunately, I just found out about this about a week and a half ago. Are there any questions, Dr. Thompson?
Yes. So is there a reason why those act changes cannot be done asynchronously? Like if we speak to the Board of Registered Nursing and they put it in their sunset review and then we add it to our sunset review a year later, is there a reason that isn't legally feasible?
Yes, because it may not happen in ours. So one act would say, yes, naturopathic doctors can give orders to nurses, and then the other act would say it could not. So you can't have 2 acts that are not the same. So it would make one, it just wouldn't be able to work that way. The only thing I could think of is working with the Board of Registered Nurses and kind of see where we can go at this time. And it may be something that they are willing to reopen it. That things like this are asked for a lot. So if they're open to having their act opened, then we can still move forward with the what we're trying to do. Dr. D'Amico?
So I know you just got this news, but any thoughts up to this point in terms of how we might proceed in actually accomplishing our goals?
Sure. So CNDA is going to be on in a little while to give their update. I know that there has been some conversation between the 2 CNDA and the Board of Registered Nurses. And I know that they've already had some conversations about what they're trying to accomplish with the supervision of nurses. I'm not sure how they're going to move forward, but what I'm thinking, and they've also both discussed this with the legislature. So at this time, if both parties are in agreement with the supervision, then they will find an author that will be willing to put a bill forward. And once that happens, then, both acts at the same time will have that change if the bill passes. So, we can still do this without both acts being open at sunset. It would have just been the easiest thing. Like I said before, when an act is opened, anything can be done to change it. So if, during sunset one year, we had a lot of stuff added to our CE statute, and it wasn't something that we asked for. It wasn't something that anybody asked for except a legislature. So, sometimes you open it and you can have other things that were not anticipated being changed.
And that's when you say open it, you mean through the sunset process versus an actual bill, which is specific to whatever the bill is about, right?
That is correct, yes.
So it might actually turn out for the best if we can get an author and we're supported.
Sure. Yeah, and they'll open both acts. They'll make the changes to whatever. It'll go into effect whenever, the bill says that it'll be effective. And at that point, it becomes law. So, yes, there's definitely ways to do it without being at sunset. That would have just been the easiest thing because both acts would have been up in front of the legislature at the same time. If both parties were in agreement to it and it wasn't something that was contentious, they may have put that new statute into our acts at the same time. But since Board of Registered Nurses is going up right now and we are not until next year, that unfortunately can't happen. But it's not to say that we cannot find somebody that can author a bill and do it that route. Absolutely.
And it's likely our sunsets would be asynchronous from now on unless there's further changes.
Right, because normally we would have been this year as well.
Yeah.
Normally with the BRN. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any. So that concludes my executive officer report today.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. At this point, I'd like to call for public comment on this agenda item.
This is the moderator. I'm opening up the Q&A at the request of the committee. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, click on the Q&A icon at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. The moderator. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. And at this point, we will move on to the website update from the, from the DCA, I'm sorry, the social media and consumer outreach update from the DCA staff, agenda item 8. Thank you so much.
Great. So today's agenda item number 8, unfortunately, we had somebody from the Department of Consumer Affairs and she could not be here today. So I'm going to go ahead and give her information to you guys. The committee reached out to the Department of Consumer Affairs and requested consultation for a social media campaign. Ms. Cherie Guro from the Office of Public Affairs created the plan that I will share with you today. Cherie is an information officer with DCA. She is also a video production specialist for them. January 2nd will mark her 2-year anniversary with DCA. Before that, Cherie was a television journalist and video production specialist for 32 years. So this shows the talent and experience that DCA staff brings to our program. And I'll share this, some of these things with you today. And you'll see some samples of kind of what she's put together as we go through these slides. The plan introduction. The Naturopathic Medicine Committee's mission is to serve the public and licensed naturopathic doctors through the promotion and enforcement of laws and regulations which protect the health and safety of Californians, thus ensuring access to high-quality naturopathic care. NMC is one of the numerous entities within the Department of Consumer Affairs responsible for consumer protection and the regulation of licensed professionals. NMC aspires to educate the public about the difference between a licensed naturopathic doctor and unlicensed naturopaths. With many unlicensed practitioners using the term naturopath, a majority of filed complaints have been against unlicensed naturopaths, including one death in the past decade. NMC wishes to strengthen consumer protection through an awareness campaign that can play an important role with consumer protection. Implementing a communications plan will help spread NMC's message to the public and help consumers make solid choices when choosing an ND. Using a comprehensive plan, NMC can launch outreach and public awareness campaigns about how NDs are rigorously regulated for the safety of consumers and how to obtain a fully licensed ND who is in good standing with the NMC. Utilizing these communication tools can also help NMC get the word out when it comes to announcements about meetings, changes in the law, exam dates, and much more. Please go to the next slide. Strategy, objectives, and goals. Some of these are to establish new social media accounts, gain new social media traffic to keep consumers and licensees informed about the difference between a licensed ND and an unlicensed naturopath or homeopath, NMC's ongoing processes such as fees, updates, and consumer protections. The social media post will encourage more followers to visit the NMC's website to find out more detailed information and proper tools to fit their needs. Engage in unique and shared social media posts once a week to increase the number of followers. We'll run quarterly reports providing data, statistics, and analytics from NMC's social media accounts. We'll use the data to data analysis for future growth and to identify audience. Receive specialized training by the Public Affairs Office to manage social media accounts and utilize Hootsuite for a comprehensive management plan. Recruit OPA to create communications campaign toolkit, messaging, send news releases, post articles, and videos about the differences between a licensed ND and unlicensed practitioners, and how to find a licensed ND that is in good standing with the committee. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. A target audience and topics for consumers and general public. The message will be showing the difference between a licensed ND and an unlicensed naturopath or homeopath. Licensed NDs are required to complete a similar type of education like MDs and DOs. Licensed NDs can provide primary care services, including prescribing conventional medications and drugs. A licensed ND can diagnose and treat symptoms, considering a holistic approach to a whole body wellness using safe and effective treatments. How licensed NDs is a safe option. How to find fully licensed naturopathic doctors that is in good standing with the committee. Rights and protections, latest information in the profession, meeting notifications, and frequently asked questions. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. For NMC licensees, the message will focus on request to share posts on their social media accounts about defining a licensed naturopathic doctor, the difference between one and an unlicensed naturopath, and other messaging. Latest news in technology, practices, professional news, regulation and procedural information, meeting notifications, outreach events, and announcements. For students, professors, and candidates of social media accounts can help highlight license procedures, latest in technology and practices, professional news, upcoming national exam dates, and announcements, such as when we need a committee members and we need them to put in their applications with the governor's office for appointments. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. Recommendations from the Public Affairs Officer is to establish a social media account with the DCA, establish accounts with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, establish a Hootsuite account to manage 3 social media accounts all at once at no cost to the program. NMC staff attend 2 or 3 social media training sessions with DCA information officers from DCA's Office of Public Affairs. Upload a high-resolution NMC logo on social media profile pages. Upload a high-resolution image on NMC social media cover pages. Change the cover page image once every quarter. Include NMC's social media policy when filling out profile pages. Update the Consumer's Guide of Naturopathic Medicine on the NMC website. Have OPA assist executing communications plan, write DCA page blog stories, Consumer Connection magazine articles, produce DCA peel videos, who we are, what we do videos for websites. Communication toolkits for education campaign and outreach will have the social media, website alerts, listserv e-blasts, and news release with press kits. Post NMC's own unique content using organic tactics. Share the updated consumer guides, general announcements such as committee meetings, newsletters, etc. We will also have OPA create videos, DCA peel stories, or blog stories about the difference between licensed NDs and unlicensed practitioners, or other content related to the field of naturopathic medicine. The timeline for all of this, we are looking to request social media email with OIS and open all social media accounts as well as Hootsuite by January 15th. On January 30th, we will attend social media training sessions with OPA Information Officer. On February 1st, we will begin posting once a week. February 20th, we will inspect the naturopathic social media engagement rate, and then we will check on a monthly basis thereafter. On April 1st, 2020, we will change the cover page of social media accounts, and we will do this every quarter. Are there any questions about the social media and communications plan? All right, Dr. Thompson.
Thank you, Rebecca. This looks great. So the DCA staff that's working on this, would they be responsible for maintaining these? Because it's easy enough to establish a site, but we would want to make sure that that site was maintained and getting new content on a regular basis.
Sure, that's a great question. Yes, they will be assisting us at the first part of the campaign, and then, of course, they'll be working with me to show me the best ways to kind of keep it going. They will continue to do media, kind of like the pill videos and stuff like that, so that we can add that. And we'll probably try to get that done at least once every other quarter for the videos, because that is kind of time consuming. But yes, we will definitely make sure that we keep posts very consistent. Dr. D'Amico? Oh, you're welcome. D'Amico?
I just want to say how grateful and exciting this is. And I sort of wonder why we suddenly get this attention, but I'm very happy for it. Is this just kind of a new initiative in the DCA? Oh. Can you hear me now?
This is the moderator. I am able to hear you.
Okay, thanks. I kept switching it, and I wanted to say how excited and grateful I am that this is happening, and I'm sort of sheepishly wondering why we are getting so much attention now. Is this kind of a new initiative with the DCA?
Greta, this is Dara Thompson. I heard you the first time as well, so I'm not having any trouble hearing you. I'm wondering if Rebecca may be having connectivity issues.
This is the moderator. I'm currently checking with Rebecca. Just a moment. I was just notified there was a loss of connection, so we're working to get them connected, and we'll be back soon. So just a moment. Thank you.
Then I would like to take this opportunity for everyone to take a 5-minute break since we've been on for about an hour and 45 minutes. So let's come back at 10:20. So everyone take a bathroom break, get a drink of water, etc. This is Dr. Thompson.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, let me try one. I unmuted from phone and the app. So should I then mute both? Is that how I should
Probably
handle
from the app.
this? Okay, let me try it.
Okay, you are muted at this moment.
I just spoke with Rebecca and was informed that the entire building she's in has lost internet at this point. So they're working on that, and we're in the process of figuring out what we need to do to move forward.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Sabina, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So we're going to resolve these technology issues, and we're going to take a little quick mid-morning snack, early lunch break, and reconvene at 11 a.m. That way, Rebecca and everybody else there on that DCA network can get back on a different network.
Thank you, Sabina. So did everyone hear we're reconvening at 11 a.m.? Sabina, should we all stay logged on to this link, or should we log out and log back in again?
I would say that's up to Elle, but I think it would be okay to log back in, maybe a couple minutes before 11 so that she can help you get set up again.
Thank you, Sabina. Yes, this is Elizabeth, the moderator. I will leave the session open. Feel free to stay logged on if you feel comfortable. Just please mute your microphone. I will mute your microphone if you leave it off. But if you feel more comfortable staying logged in, please do so. If you would like to log out, you can also do so. I will be here a couple minutes before 11 to help you do mic checks and all of that. And we do have a note on the slide indicating that we will reconvene at 11.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And I know, Dr. D'Amico, you had the last question on the floor, and we will start with that question about kind of why we are where we are with this public relations kind of social media plan, and we will plan to pick up there when we get back online.
Sounds good. See y'all soon.
Present.
Dr. Greta D'Amico?
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Vera Singleton?
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Quinn? Dr. Quinn, are you back online with us? Okay, we'll move back to him in a few moments.
I think the moderator may need to unmute him because he's on phone rather than computer.
Oh, that's right. I see his
There we go.
Thank you so much. Dr. Davidson?
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Mina Yoon?
Present.
Ms. Shirley Worrells? Shirley, are you back online? Are you there, Shirley? I think she's trying to talk. I can't hear her very well. Okay. All right, we have a quorum. Okay, apparently there was a question that was posed to me before we had the technical difficulties start. So I do apologize for that. So I'm glad that everybody could get back on and bear with us while we worked through that. So I believe that Greta D'Amico, Dr. D'Amico had a question about why were we getting some attention now. And the reason for that, Dr. D'Amico, is because when we were doing our strategic plan, I know that the committee's main goal was to get some education out there on the differences between a licensed naturopathic doctor and just a traditional naturopath who is not licensed. We were thinking of ways that we could do that educational campaign, and this seems to be the easiest way to do that. And by doing the social media outreach, we can also reach our licensees. We can also reach other stakeholders, students, that type of thing. So we figured that this was probably the best way to do it. So you guys spoke, I listened, I reached out to DCA, and DCA put together this fantastic plan for us.
This sounds amazing. And I wonder if, I think the mention of the videos here and there was included in your presentation. And if so, I'm wondering if YouTube fixes in the plan at some point, or if there's been any thought about that.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, no, I think we'll do the small videos here and there, but the majority of it is going to be just kind of the outreach portion of this segment. And we'll continue doing things as we see they kind of come into play. If we see other things start taking place, and that's kind of where that data and the analytics that we will get back with the social medias will kind of show us where our audience is, what we should be putting out there. And the Office of Public Affairs will definitely assist us with that. That is their specialty. That's what they do. So they'll definitely kind of hold our hand and take us through this.
I'm smiling, very excited. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Are there any other questions about the social media plan or the communication outreach? Okay. Dr. Quinn, I see your hand is still raised. Do you still have a question, or is it just up from last time?
No, that's an error. I should have removed it. I just needed to get unmuted.
Perfect.
Thanks for using WebEx. Visit our website at www.webex.com.
Is everyone still on and connected well? This is Dr. Thompson. I'd like to move to public comment on this before we move on to the section on the website.
This is the moderator. So we will take a moment. Okay, yes, so we are going to display the Q&A, and I'm going to open up for Q&A. Or for public comment, I'm going to open the Q&A feature on WebEx. Members of the public, you can click on the Q&A icon at the right corner of your screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. And committee chair, at this moment, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, please. And Rebecca, will you also be doing the presentation on the website, or is that a different DCA staff that is able to attend?
No, I will be presenting as well on that.
Thank you.
And this is the moderator. I apologize for interrupting. I want to make sure we still have audio from Thomas Quinn. If we can do a quick mic check.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I had dismissed a second line you had. I wasn't sure if I dismissed your entire line. So
thank you very much.
When there's a second line, it causes echo, and that's what was going on. So I dismissed the second line. And I wanted to come back around to Shirley Worrells. I wanted to see if we can do a quick mic check.
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So apologize for the interruption. You can proceed.
Thank you so much. So we're going to move on to agenda item, excuse me, number 9 regarding the website.
Great, thank you. Really quick, moderator, can we do a check for Dr. Elisa Cicerone? I believe she may have been an attendee. I just want to make sure she's up as a panelist.
Thank you. Yes, she is. Dr. Cicerone, you are a panelist. Can we do a quick mic check? And I will unmute your line from my end. Thank you.
Yep.
You have been unmuted.
I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. I appreciate that. Okay, so we are now up on agenda item number 9. It's the NMC website update. If you go ahead and advance to the next slide, thank you. So the NMC website is being updated currently to follow the new DCA's format. The new format will allow for a more ADA compliant site and keeps the look and feel of all board sites consistent, just kind of throughout Department of Consumer Affairs. The new color combinations are kind of limited, but I was able to find the Delta theme, which is very close to the natural feel that our current website has. These were the most kind of mild, subtle colors. Everything else has bright yellows and very hard on the eyes. So I think that this is probably the best option for us in the 7 color schemes that we had. Does anybody have any questions about the color scheme that we have chosen? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I'll go ahead and please advance to the next slide. This slide here shows the Board of Behavioral Science, and it shows a good example of the new format. There's a top alert bar. You'll see the red bar at the very, very top. This is for items like the COVID waivers and that type of thing that you can put your alerts in. There's also a secondary bar that allows for quick links to NMC's social media accounts, contact us, subscriptions to email blasts, and license verifications. You'll see that in the blue bar following the red one. The bottom bar has a button that allows users to navigate quickly through the different pages of the website. And you'll see that it has the About Us, the update for FAQs, applicants, that kind of thing. If you would please advance the slide. This here is a slide that shows a great example of the Veterinary Medical Board. This is a very easy to follow mapping as well for a web page. Once a user clicks on the buttons in the lower bar, the page will open, allowing for more choices for the user. So if you see this, this shows that the party had clicked the licensee tab, and this comes down, and then all of these are buttons that they can click into that allows more information to be provided to the licensee or consumer, whoever. So these are just some of the kind of different samples that are out there right now for the new formats, and we're going to be kind of picking the best of what is out there and trying not to do too much accordion style website design. We just want to make it very easy to use, very efficient. We don't want people to get confused and have to click on, a zillion different things to get to the information that they're needing. We want to make sure that all of the very important information is at the very top, that they're easy to find, and we want to make it, just as user friendly as possible. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are out there like I am who do not like tech, and we want to just make sure that we have a website that's very easy to maneuver. Are there any questions about that? Okay, so we're going to be, the timeline for this is going to be similar to the social media because we're trying to kind of connect everything as we're moving forward. While we're doing this, the Department of Consumer Affairs has to maintain 2 websites. They have to maintain the new one, and they have to maintain the old current website until the new one is ready to go live. So when we're putting in different changes and stuff like that, we have to be very careful to only make absolute necessary changes to our current website now. So, posting minutes, posting meeting agendas and that type of thing. But other than that, we're not going to be making any more changes to our website until the transfer of the sites have been done. And this is just because it's a lot for the DCA's website team, internet team to do both at the same time. So, are there any questions? Okay, you guys are a very easy group today. Thank you. I am done with the examples today. Moderator, would you?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Rebecca. At this point, I'd like to ask for public comments on the information regarding the website.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A at the request of the committee. Members of the public, you can click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. At this time, we're going to welcome the CNBA representatives who are going to give us a presentation. Thank you so much for being here.
I just wanted to, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. I just wanted to give everyone an update on what we're really working on with the CNDA right now. We had our strategic planning annual meeting and decided that where we really feel that we need to go is really working on advocacy. We haven't had any legislation run since SB 538. And so we as a board decided that that is going to be our main focus now. We've had some calls with Rebecca and with Patrick Lay over at Assembly Business and Professions to kind of get a feeling for just the landscape of what's happening with bills right now. And as you all know, AB 890 passed, which allows independent practice for nurse practitioners. And so we're hoping to go with that momentum and really focus on the primary care shortage right now, especially with COVID and being able to bridge that gap. So we are now working with Tracy Hobson, who was priorly with the AAMP. She was doing a lot of work legislatively for all different states through the AAMP. And she's no longer with them, so she has come to work with the CNDA to help us with our advocacy plan. So our two main goals are modernizing our scope of practice, including full prescriptive rights with limitation on supervision by MDs or DOs. And then the second is the ability of MDs to hire and give orders to both LVMs and RNs. So our first goal of modernizing scope is going to need to be accomplished through legislation. As we kind of figured out with the NMC, it's not really possible to do that just in regulation. Ability to hire and give orders to RNs and LVNs may be accomplished during our next sunset review if it's supported by the nurses and the nursing board, as both naturopathic doctors and nurses will be going through sunset review at the same time, and both of the bills will be open. So we're hoping to start discussions immediately for that. I'm sure everybody remembers 538. It actually did pretty well in the legislature. It passed the Senate committees, the full Senate and Assembly committee before it failed on the Assembly floor, which it was partially due to some of our supporters missing the vote. I think we got a lot farther than anyone ever thought we were going to get. And so we're considering running a similar bill in 2021, though we do need to really work on that with Assembly BNP because they are looking to limit the number of bills in 2021. But healthcare bills are a priority. So we think there's a lot of potential opportunity here. So just kind of an overlap of steps that we're taking, but I just want to give everyone kind of the outline is first focusing on really creating our narrative and giving all of the supporting materials. And really the focus is on closing that provider gap with the PCP shortage in California. So we're in the process of designing new legislative materials, doing different one-pagers on a variety of topics, including naturopathic doctor education, safety in naturopathic medicine nationally and specifically in California, the history of naturopathic medicine regulation in California, the California primary care provider shortage and how NDs can help resolve it. And also getting letters of support from MDs, DOs, especially those that have supervised, some of the national naturopathic groups, and different businesses that work with MDs. Another big piece of this is really starting to rebuild relationships with a lot of the legislators. So we have a lot of new reps and ones that are still in office that have previously supported us in the past. Also some that have somewhat supported us. So we haven't really had a strong presence in Sacramento. We have not had a lobbying firm. So we're looking to develop a plan of action for outreach there. Obviously not going in person with COVID, but setting up meetings over Zoom and meeting with past supporters, ensuring continuing support, and meeting with all the new members and senators for more of an introduction of what we do. And then we're obviously going to need to secure bill author and some sponsors that we're looking again back to 538 and also looking at supporters of AB 890 for the nurse practitioners. We'll be focusing on raising funds for the CNDA to support these legislative efforts. It's about $250,000 to $300,000 to run a bill, and then really trying to build some grassroots support, which we have not been particularly focused on in the past, and really engaging our patients to be advocates for modernizing the scope for their naturopathic doctors that they see. We are continuing to try to build relationships with, MDs, DOs, nurses, chiropractors. We are just trying to neutralize any opposition from traditional naturopaths, and then just working with other organizations that can help support us and organizations that have had similar success with bills. So we did have a call with the legislative director of the Board of Registered Nursing, who gave us some really great insight into the nurse practitioners. We spoke with the Nurse Practitioners Association. So we're in the beginning steps, but we recognize that there needs to be some legislative movement. We just want to make sure that we have a really solid advocacy plan in place moving forward that's going to hit all of these different areas so that we have the best chance possible of having it passed. We don't want to run something, obviously, just to run it. So does anyone have any questions for me about that? That's really the biggest update right now in terms of what we're working on as an association and a board.
This is the moderator. I see hands that are up. Are you able to see the hand feature, Dr. Cicerone, or would you like me to call on the raised hands?
I can only see one on mine.
Yes, there's only one currently.
Okay. Yes, Greta.
Hello. Earlier in our meeting today, Rebecca informed us that the Naturopathic Medicine Committee and the Board of Registered Nurses are going to be on alternate years for their sunset bill. So our previous strategy of opening both bills at the same time during sunset review is kind of moot at this point. So you might just get updated with that because she just found that out a few days ago.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but we can definitely still do the work, like you were stating, Dr. Cicerone. It's great strategy. And we can definitely still move forward doing it either in our act when we're up at sunset, or if we, do a bill even after our sunset, we can definitely still move forward with that as long as we can find an author.
Perfect.
And I also wanted just to add, in case everybody isn't aware, that the modernization of the scope of practice for naturopathic doctors here in California is very important, especially with the gap in the primary care. As 57% of our licensees practice in medically underserved areas and with medically underserved populations. So that's a large amount of our licensees that are out there working in the trying to close that gap in the rural areas.
And that's really what, I think where our argument is really stemming from is really trying to present the facts about naturopathic doctors in California. We're really looking for the data on how many students are attending best year in California and then leaving California because of the lack of ability to practice a modernized or full scope. And then also looking at so how that's affecting, obviously, the local economies and what it's doing to the numbers of naturopathic doctors in California. And then, of course, looking at all of the data that Rebecca has gathered with licensed naturopathic doctors versus traditional naturopaths in terms of any cases of harm and all of the safety reporting. So we're trying to really present a strong evidence-driven case to the legislators, especially those that have worked with us in the past. The challenge I think that we come across a lot of the times is that there isn't the equivalency to MD and DO programs in terms of residency. And so continuing to have that discussion with, key members, especially those that are physicians, and having that discussion that, while we can't say that there is, across the board equivalency, our focus is really on competency. And so looking at different measures that would be suitable to, if there were any extra ones, to prove competency. So one of the things we were had previous discussions with Assemblymember Arambula from Assembly BNP, was obviously we don't have all of the residency opportunities. However, would there be some room to say, if a doctor has done a residency in a state with a full scope and then come to California, not having to have a supervisory agreement if the doctor has done a residency. So having some kind of negotiation or wiggle room with some different steps people can take to also move outside of the supervisory agreement for full prescriptive rights.
This is Dr. D'Amico again. Sure. I have a question regarding serving underserved populations and a couple of emails that came from the CNDA recently about Medi-Cal. And is it okay if I ask a question about that right now?
I'm sure I don't know that I'll be able to answer, but I can try.
It didn't, and maybe Rebecca knows more about this. I didn't quite understand it because it had to do with Medi-Cal changing platforms for pharmacy benefits. But my understanding is that naturopathic doctors currently have the ability to kind of be sign on with Medi-Cal not as providers, but in such a way that labs and drugs would be covered for Medi-Cal, those who have Medi-Cal insurance. And I'm not sure that anything was required of naturopathic doctors in California who do have that arrangement per the new ruling, but I don't understand it. I've read the emails a few times and I can't quite figure it out. Does anybody know more?
Greta, I'll take a look into this and send you whatever I can find out on it offline. But this isn't on the agenda, so I just don't want to get off track onto a subject that's not agendized, right? But I will definitely look into it and get you some more information on that.
And then, Dr. Thompson, you had your hand up also.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to thank you for all of your work and coming here to present to us. I think this is so important. As a board, we have generally supported scope modernization for quite some time because of the issues around public safety that come from having a more restricted scope, both access and also the inability of, practitioners who are operating as primary care doctors to provide full and complete care. So I want to really thank you for your work. I know that one of the big issues we have is education and people understanding the education and educating the public and the legislators about the education and training of naturopathic doctors. And prior to COVID, there was a lot of, push to go meet with people, knock on doors, educate in that way. And how have you shifted that sort of outreach in these times?
So that's what we're kind of building into the plan right now, is without having anything in person, how do we do that, one-on-one with the legislators, usually their senior staff members, and what that looks like over Zoom. That's what we're working on now, because we don't know, right? It's very unprecedented. So we don't have a lobbyist in Sacramento. Even if we did, we still wouldn't be doing the same in-person meetings right now with COVID. So we're trying to shift it to more of a virtual platform. The hope is to start having some of the board members and key people that have worked with the CNDA in the past, that have, previous relationships, like Jen Barr and Simon and Angela, people that have been involved and have built those relationships with legislators in the past to try to, get re-engaged and work with our board now to figure out who some of the, the key members are to reach out to. And then we're also looking at all of the, the new legislators that are coming on board now that may be unfamiliar with naturopathic medicine, and trying to start out with more of an education piece. We're really focusing on starting with education of the legislators before we move into the ask of bill support. And this is, I'll be honest, and I know, we've talked about this at, I think, the last meeting I was in Sacramento for. The challenge is, and continues to be, that naturopathic doctors on a district level and in the capital do not have strong relationships with our legislators. We don't have a lot of naturopathic doctors that are going to local events in their area. We don't have a lot of naturopathic doctors that are building those relationships. We have a few that do, work with some key members, but across the board, there are not those relationships. And so we've been told in no uncertain terms, that that's the key to running successful legislation, is having those relationships and having that and garnering that support from all of the committee members. So that's our goal right now, and it'll be virtual as far as we can see.
Thank you.
And we're totally open to any suggestions, or anyone that has had success, meeting with their representatives on a local level too, and how they've been able to kind of steer that during COVID as well. My understanding, though, for most people is everyone's been so focused on, keeping their businesses and their practices up and running that a lot of that has taken the back seat, even for those of us that were engaged on the local level previously. I know that I have, myself. So I think that's what's happening across the board with a lot of our docs.
Dr. Cicerone, thank you so much. This is Rebecca, and I just wanted to state that I think with the social media presence that we are going to have, along with some of the campaign that we're doing for just kind of putting that education piece out there, I think we can definitely assist with getting some of that out to our stakeholders, licensees, anybody that is interested, legislators that may come onto our social media accounts, that type of thing. So we can definitely, if we're all in agreement, there's things that we can do on our side as well, just to get that general educational information and just things that may not be well known out there as well.
That would be fantastic. I think we can have a lot of overlap with what the CNDA is doing and what the NMC is doing in regards to educating legislators, educating patients, educating the public. So I think we can definitely work together and have some key posts that we can cross promote also. And I see another hand up for Vera.
Dr. Cicerone.
Hi there. So just a couple of comments and what I know about really using social media effectively. And this is just because you asked for some additional suggestions. This could be a really good way to cross tag, because oftentimes what happens for I think people just being in their daily lives, they're not in contact with their representatives or people who can make a difference in Sacramento. So, having talking points that people can distribute either in their Twitter or Instagram or Facebook with links to the CNDA or links to, NMC's representatives, and tagging them, because they're very much, this time people are very much paying attention to, social media, because that's our way of communicating. So I think having ready to go talking points or ready to go social media posts, like 5 or 10 of them that people can circulate and just post, and then cross tagging also makes a difference. In this game in social media, it's just about exposure and how many times people see your name and occurrence. So the more that we have some type of cross-tagging strategy, that can be a really cost-effective way to just build the name and to build the interest about, how can naturopathic doctors really make a difference in the shortage, or in this time frame in particular, because I feel like, our situation is going to be relatively stagnant for the next 6 months or so before we go back to doing in person, right? And we're not up for sunset for a long time. So, building this grassroots effort, I think this is the best way to do it. This is what the politicians are doing. So I'm just putting that out there in terms of an addition to the strategy. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
And I think, this is Rebecca, but I think Dr. Singleton really hit the nail on the head when I was discussing all of our needs and kind of what our plan was when it comes to social media. Cherie did definitely, you probably read the script that she read to me, because that's exactly the type of information that she was providing to me to kind of provide to you guys, that it's that constant being out in the presence of the consumers, in the presence of the legislators. And if we can't do that in person, the next best thing is social media. And so absolutely, I think that's a great way of just kind of getting that information out there to everybody involved. So thanks, Dr. Singleton, for bringing that up.
Dr. Cicerone, did you have any other aspects to your presentation today?
Nope, that's it.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate having you here, and all of your efforts. At this point, I would like to open up for public comment.
Moderator, I'm opening up the Q&A feature at the request of the committee. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment, click on the Q&A icon and type, I would like to make a comment, and send it to all panelists.
And Dr. Singleton, your hand is still up. Was that left on, or did you have something else to say?
No, that's an error. Sorry about that.
We do have instructions on the screen. And again, the Q&A icon is located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen for most users. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, if you could please close it. Thank you. And this was actually a perfect segue. Rebecca, you clearly thought about the order of your agenda items into our next item, which is discussion of possible action on legislative topics. So Rebecca, would you like to start that?
Sure, thank you. So, you know, as we've kind of discussed throughout this meeting today, that there are some definite possible legislative efforts that CNDA is going to be bidding for. And with that, I know that the committee has also discussed some of these things prior. You know, one of the biggest asks that we're getting from both nurses and naturopathic doctors is the ability of nurse oversight. So that's a big thing. And absolutely, if we can work at the committee to assist in supporting that, we will definitely do so. We think that anytime a naturopathic doctor has somebody at a certain medical level with the training and everything, even more so than a naturopathic assistant, working in their office with them, it's just more consumer protection, and it alleviates some of that busy that the naturopathic doctors do in their practices all the time. So it's something that we would love to see happen. And, you know, I know that the committee has discussed this before and would be in support of that. The next thing, which a lot of times programs do not ask for scope expansions or scope. The reason being is because, you know, when you're broadening a scope, you know, you're asking for, you know, more abilities to do things, and with that comes more risk. So it's not normal for a program to ask for that. However, the committee has discussed this in many previous meetings about the need to modernize the scope and bring the intent, the original intent of the legislature kind of to, you know, up to date. Again, back in 2005, when the Bureau was created and the Naturopathic Doctors Act was effective, the legislature had asked that the Bureau at the time put together an advisory committee, and that advisory committee was supposed to be made up of naturopathic doctors, medical physicians, either being a medical doctor or an osteopathic physician, and pharmacists. And with these practitioners, they were supposed to go over the education, the training, and all of the information, and kind of put together that data, come up with a suggestion, and give it back to the legislature. Well, that did happen. And in 2007, that report was submitted to the legislature. Unfortunately, nothing ever happened. And I'm not sure why. The committee at the time was a bureau under the Department of Consumer Affairs. So not sure why it didn't happen at that point. But in 2010, the Naturopathic Bureau became the committee. under the Osteopathic Medical Board. Although we are definitely autonomous from them, it was, kind of put together at 2010. So since then, we have been trying to correct the scope to be able to perform and practice as trained. So that is what we're trying to do here. We have definitely made this something within our strategic plan that we would be in support of. And reason being is because we have several, consumers that contact us wondering why their naturopathic doctor here in California can't do what their naturopathic doctor in Oregon is doing. And it's concerning that the consumers here don't get the same naturopathic treatment that they can in all of the other neighboring states. So I want to go ahead and open it up to the committee to make sure that this is something that the committee is still in support of. I know that we brought the CNDA and asked them to come today to kind of give their update on possible legislative efforts that they are going to be going and attempting. So I think that this is the best time to just make sure that we're all still on the same page that we were for the last 10 years. But I just want to kind of open it up to that. Dr. Thompson?
So thank you so much. And yes, the committee has been in support of this for years because of what I stated earlier, because it is truly an issue of public safety not to have the full scope. However, you mentioned 3 different things, which are the nurse oversight, the independent prescribing, the minor office procedures. Do we want to go through, discuss each of those with our committee members, or how did you want to structure that? Just open up for comments, see if anyone has any comments on those particular areas.
I think that would be okay. The nurse oversight, of course, what Dr. Cicerone was talking about a little while ago, that's something that the committee has been, and every single naturopathic doctor that I have ever spoke to, they want nurses in their practices. They need that trained practitioner that has that type of training in there to assist them. So yeah, absolutely. I think that that's something that you guys may want to discuss. And then for scope modernization, the independent prescribing rights and the minor office procedures are something that we continuously get requests about. Or inquiries about, I'm sorry. And we have consumers contacting us wondering why, again, our NDs here cannot do these things that they can do in every other state.
So I'd like to streamline the questions because this is something we've been in support of for so many years, and just ask all the members of the committee to really focus if they have any areas of concern or questions in which they would not support these changes.
Well, Dr. Thompson, I think maybe everybody is still in support, it looks like.
It does appear so, and of course, this is not a final decision, and this is something that we can always come back and revisit at every stage. And I know that as a committee, we certainly don't support people just having full and unregulated practice. As the Naturopathic Medical Committee, come in and support these changes by assuring that those changes are supported by appropriate, measurements of competency.
Yes, that is correct. And we do have things in place where if and when the scope modernization ever takes place, that we can definitely put these things into play at the committee so that the consumer protection is still at the top of our list, and that we can make sure that we are minimizing any kind of risk to the consumer.
Seeing no questions from the members of the committee, I'd like to open to public comment.
This is the moderator. I've opened up the Q&A at the request of the committee. Members of the public, you can click on the Q&A icon located at the bottom right corner of your WebEx screen and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. And we'll be moving on to agenda item number 12, which discusses the administration of NCLEX exam online. Seems like a very timely subject.
Great, thank you. For agenda item number 12, this is in regards to the Naturopathic Physician Licensing Examination, or NCLEX. We'll discuss the future of NCLEX and online examinations. During the February 2020 NCLEX exam, COVID-19 was causing many challenges, as most of you know. One of those challenges was the closing of many industries that were not considered essential. The hotel that the NCLEX was contracted with canceled due to COVID. And at the last minute, several stakeholders were able to work out a solution, and the exam was able to be administered at Bastyr University down in San Diego. Afterwards, many parties, including students and professional associations, shared their desire to have the NCLEX administered online. Due to limited resources and serious security risks and integrity of the test, there are several states who remain against online testing. At this time, I want to check with the committee again on your feelings of an online test. Please keep in mind that if there is any compromise of the test, there would be no national exam until another test could be created. It takes on an average of about a year to create and then to validate another exam. I have spoke with the Department of Consumer Affairs. Hang on a second, I'm sorry, I have to rummage through some pages really quick. So I spoke with Department of Consumer Affairs, Office of Professional Examination Services. And at this time, they strongly recommend that programs carefully evaluate online or remote proctoring using psychometric guidelines and standards. OPES also cautions that this test delivery system may have unintended consequences. These consequences may include new opportunities for candidate misconduct and examination subversion, as well as potential legal issues. So with that in mind, I want to go ahead and ask if you, the committee members, have any opinions on whether you would be comfortable with NCLEX going to an online test exam. Dr. Thompson.
Honestly, I think that I would need a lot more information. I think that given the risks associated with in-person testing, being in a room with many other people for hours, I mean, my NCLEX exam lasted 3 days. I think that this is something we need to really look seriously at, because our healthcare professionals, we can't be, calling them out with COVID or anything like that. That being said, I do have security concerns, and I think this is a topic that is really up in our nation right now, given a lot of the concerns about voting that have just, are being voiced throughout the country. And as I'm just going to use this as an analogy, as a parent who has tried to restrict what my child can do on his computer and see, and been largely unsuccessful, I do have concerns about online proctoring and it being able to be done in a way that is fully secure. Is there some option where people could go and take the test online with a controlled device in an isolated location, so not being in a large room with multiple people, but being in a, like a single stall where they could do the test electronically, but they wouldn't be like in their home or something like that?
Yeah, so I know that the NABNY and NPLEX have been looking into different ways that online exams are provided and given, administered. And one of those things is having test sites that have the computers and the individuals would go in and take their test on a computer. The only issue with this is the integrity of the exam. So if that exam was not secured properly and it got out or the questions were released, we would be, naturopathic profession would be without a national exam for at least a year. That means students that are graduating would be without an exam for a year before they can be licensed. And that is at a minimum. It takes quite a long time to come up with an exam and to have it validated. So there are definite risks with having an online exam. I know that when they had the exam in February in Bastyr, it was done in a way where they had more exam rooms going, more proctors that were in each of those rooms so that the social distancing could be kept. And then, everything was as it normally is, except for the fact that it was done in more than one room. So there are ways to continue doing the in-person paper exam. So, there are definite pros and cons, but I think just knowing what I know about the information and the cost of coming up with a new exam, the burden would be placed on students because that exam cost would go up tremendously if they had to redo another exam. If they move this to an online structure, they're then paying whichever vendor that they're using to administer their exam. And from my understanding, it gets quite costly. So those are some of the kind of information that I can share with you. Unfortunately, I don't have direct numbers as that wasn't shared with me. I do know that it is quite a excessive fee or the expenditure that the NPLEX would have to take on, and then at that point put on to the students. And we're trying to make sure that students have the ability to access the tests without more of a financial burden to them. Dr. D'Amico?
I think this is a subject that we should hold in our minds, but not move to act on right away. There's a few aspects of this. One is an exam being on paper versus paperless, and exams have been administered in a paperless manner probably since the 1980s on closed networks. So these would be on computers that don't actually have access to the internet. And that's just because if there's, I think maybe like a driver's license test is administered this way now. If it's going to save money or be more efficient to just be able to tabulate everybody's answers electronically, then you can always set up a closed system with computers. And that would be really something that the NPLEX board would probably need to suggest. You'd think it would come from them because it would be more of an efficiency versus the idea, which is such a nice idea, being able to take the exam in the comfort of your home. But there's just no way. We don't have the technology right now. I'm not sure we ever would to be able to assure that that was secure.
Thank you, Dr. D'Amico. I agree with some of that. There are definitely some professions that have online exams, as you've stated. I think the problem that NPLEX is seeing is the cost associated with that, and the cost that they would have to then put on to the students that are taking this. So you have to remember that the other professions that are on an online testing environment have, I would say at least 10 times the amount of applicants that are taking those tests than the naturopathic profession. And because of that, it allows more revenue that they can then spend back into putting into that test. Unfortunately, naturopathic profession doesn't have that just because of the small population size. So we do have to keep that in mind as well moving forward. So I, just wanted to kind of bring this to your attention. This is something that they're definitely looking at right now, but they're trying to kind of gather some of this information from all of the states who regulate naturopathic doctors and find out, because if there's even one state that is against an online exam, then they're not going online, because then at that point, that state would have to do their own state exam. And again, a lot of money. When I was with the Osteopathic Medical Board way back in the day, I think the last test that the state had there cost them about $50,000 to put together and validate. And, it's just not the kind of money that we have. It's not the kind of money that a lot of the states have to use on an exam that has already been created. So these are things to keep in mind. I can definitely, as we kind of move forward with this and the information that is provided to me, I can kind of outline some of the information and provide it to the committee members so that you guys have a little bit more information moving forward. But I just kind of wanted to see what the environment looked like right now, just so that I can kind of give feedback to NPLEX so that they kind of know what is going on right now with the climate. Dr. Thompson?
Thank you. That did answer both Dr. D'Amico's comment and your response did answer most of my questions. I think that we all agree we just need more information. Like, we wouldn't be comfortable moving to an online exam right now without more information. And I would be really interested, and this may be something to discuss in our next meeting or put on the agenda for our next meeting, on knowing if there are other equivalent professions that are conducting their exams entirely online. Because I know, as Dr. D'Amico pointed out, that there are lots of tests that are administered this way. I mean, years ago, must have been at least 10 years ago, I took a GRE test, and that was exactly how it was conducted, on a computer, remotely, et cetera. So, definitely there's a model for that, but it's not an equivalent exam, because we're talking about competency in a healthcare scenario where we really, really don't want people practicing who don't have the appropriate knowledge base. So if you can find out, Rebecca, just as part of this ongoing discussion, what if there are equivalents in similar professions and what they're doing, just so we have more information, the costs associated with that. And then also, I am hopeful that within a year and a half, our need to be so isolated will be different, in which case this is somewhat of a moot point, if that makes sense.
I absolutely agree with that statement. And I'm hoping too that within a year things kind of go back to normal and we can do in-person testing. So what I'm going to do is I will reach out to OPEZ and see if I can maybe get some data on which of the programs under Department of Consumer Affairs currently use an online structure for their exams and who is still doing the in-person tests. And then I will also contact NPLEX and, of course, the Federation and find out exactly what those costs associated with providing online testing would be, and what kind of increase to the test fee that the students would have to incur because of the, of course, the costs associated with moving that to an online testing. And I know that maybe I can bring OPEZ here to our next meeting and see if we can have somebody discuss just kind of what having, a state test would entail. I mean, if it ever came to that where, the online test was compromised and there was absolutely no test out there for a student to take. There's just so many things that you're right, you probably would need to know. So yeah, we'll definitely get some of that information for you guys and bring it to you. Dr. Cicerone, you have a question? Dr. Cicerone, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Thanks.
Oh, I just think it would be great to talk to the ONC AMP because the FABNO exam, I took it a number of years ago, 7 years ago, but I believe it's still being done the same way where it is done online at a testing facility where you are in a room on their computer with none of your personal belongings in there. So it may be worthwhile to see, to reach out to them to see cost. Obviously, there are fewer people doing it every year, but that's been how they've done it for years. And also, obviously, the NCLEX for nursing has always been done electronically.
Okay. I will definitely reach out and check with those individuals. Really quick, and that's one other thing is just so that you guys are aware that there were several of these exam centers that closed down during COVID as well. So just because we move to an online does not necessarily mean that that test is going to be available for the test takers. Unfortunately, with COVID, we just don't know, what's going to be shut down when. Schools have been given the essential priority to remain open when it comes to things like that. So there's that as a pro is that if COVID does close down exam sites, that a paper in-person exam would still be able to be given and administered at the naturopathic colleges. So we will definitely get some more information and I will provide that to the members and we'll go ahead and put this on to our next agenda so that we can discuss this further at another time. Yes, Dr. Quinn.
At the risk of being redundant, I was just asking for clarity. It sounds like we're all concerned about the integrity of online testing and would like to table this decision. And I think we're all optimistic this time a year from now with a new administrative approach and vaccine that this may be a different climate and we can do in-person testing. Can we table this decision for a year?
Well, what we can do, tabling it for a year, I think maybe a little bit too long because the NPLEX, the NABNY, who is administrator of the NPLEX, is trying to kind of collect some of this information now so that they kind of know the climate, if they even need to move to an online exam or whether this is something that is just a no-go. Because like I said, if there's just one state that says no, they're not going to move to an online exam because this is the only exam that the profession has at this time. May I ask you really quick, Dr. Quinn, since you are an MD, does the medical board here in California use an online test?
Not to my knowledge. I have only been limited to the specialty board of cardiology. And that is in person. And I think the American Board of Internal Medicine is uniform in how it administers all of the testing for all the specialties. I think all of them are in person, but I'm not 100% sure.
Great, thank you. So I have went ahead and moved this online test and NPLEX stuff to our agenda items for our next board meeting. So if there are any other questions, I'll go ahead and take them now, or even comments, I'll take them now so that I can share them back with NPLEX. And then we can bring some more information to you guys and we can make a better decision at another time. Dr. Quinn, did you still have a question or did you just not put your hand down?
Sorry, I have to put my hand down.
No worries, thank you. All right, thank you.
If no one has any more questions or comments, I'd like to open for public comment.
As the moderator, I've opened the Q&A feature at the request of the committee. Members of the public, you can click on the Q&A icon and type, "I would like to make a comment," and send it to all panelists. Committee Chair, no requests have been submitted. Would you like me to close the Q&A feature?
Yes, thank you. So another perfect transition there, Rebecca. At this point, we're going to be moving on to agenda item 13, which is future agenda items for the next meeting dates. I think we've all agreed we need to talk about the online NCLEX at the next meeting. And that I think also we need to continue to have discussion regarding legislative efforts during that meeting.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. So currently I have on our list for the next agenda items, we have the budget change proposal for enforcement. We also have the NPLEX online test and future legislative efforts. Does anybody have anything else? Dr. D'Amico.
I just wanted to ask regarding regulations. Are we pretty much up to date? Is there anything in front of us that we have not started working on yet?
So currently we have about 3 regulations that are over in the legal office, the regulations office, and they're getting those done as soon as possible. So yeah, the only thing right now is the AB 2138. That should be going over to the Office of Administrative Law soon. And then I will be providing everybody with updates as soon as that comes back.
Seems like we're arriving at a bit of a transition where we had so much of this in front of us and now it's kind of getting more behind us and we can look to the future.
Yes, absolutely. So, moving along with that strategic plan that you guys did last year, just kind of going through it and working through that, we're just kind of checking them off as we go. And so these are things that you guys have definitely asked for and came up with in your strategic plan. And it's definitely something that the committee is making sure that we are meeting that plan and kind of sticking with it. So I will definitely do my part in helping you guys continue on with that plan and make sure that we're taking action on everything that you felt was important. So yeah, if there's, we can definitely bring up a regulation update on our next meeting so that you guys kind of have all of the regulations in front of you. If you would like, I can add that to our agenda item.
Great. And is there anything outside of that regarding sunset that we need to discuss?
Not yet, not currently. As we go forward, and I already have the questions that the legislature is looking for in terms of sunset review. So I'm already kind of starting to look at our data and stuff like that. So as we move closer to our time for those questions to be submitted to the legislature, we will definitely be working on it. I think at that point we would probably want to put together a subcommittee that may want to assist working on some of the things that are in sunset that we may need to answer to. So yeah, I think maybe if you want to add that on an agenda item, I don't know if we really need to get into it in January, but if we are, I would say, all in agreement, maybe put together a subcommittee that can assist me with working through the sunset.
I think it's a good idea to be proactive, and if we don't have a ton to talk about in the next meeting, then we'll, we can push it out, but I think we should at least have it there.
Perfect. I have added it.
Any other agenda items that people want to make sure that we have in our next meeting? And if not, then we should probably move forward to talking about our next meeting dates.
Perfect. All right.
Rebecca, you mentioned January. We generally do have a meeting right around January as our sort of annual beginning of the year. Since this one is, early December, it seems like later in January makes more sense. Is there a timeline that you would prefer on that?
The later part of January sounds like it's a great idea. That gives us kind of time to come back from any holidays and get agendas put together and that type of thing. So yeah, that would be great. And I have a couple of things in the first part of January. So if everybody wants to take a look at their calendar, I think the week of the 18th or the week of the 25th of January, if everybody can kind of take a look and see what works best for them. And are there any days?
Are there any considerations in terms of possible bills? I think January 20th is like usually the date, right? That we have to submit. I mean, but if the CNDA submits a bill.
So we can discuss that, and if CND is working with the legislator at that time, they'll kind of know more, and they can definitely update us as to kind of what they're doing at that time. And I will be in communication with CNDA, at least every couple of weeks until the first of the year. So if there are any updates, I can definitely bring that to you. But I think that they're looking to run legislation. I think Dr. Cicerone, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you did say that you were planning on starting the campaign in 2021, correct?
Yeah, and that's the goal. There's just a number of other things that will kind of pending other things happening to see if that's really a reality. So that's what we're trying to do now, is kind of get the groundwork going to see if we'll be able to do that and to have a successful bill. So I can't say for sure that we will be.
Perfect. So yeah, I think January the 18th, the week of the 18th or the 25th would definitely still work. Dr. Davidson, did you have a concern or a question?
Thank you. Yes, the 18th is Martin Luther King Day and the 20th is Inauguration Day. I would suggest not scheduling it on either of those days.
Thank you. Unfortunately, my phone does not show those dates, so thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. So we will not to use the 18th or the 20th. Maybe the 21st or 22nd of that week would work, or the week of the 25th.
I would vote for the 26th.
Anybody opposed to January 26th, which is on a Tuesday? All right, it looks like we found our date. So I'm going to go ahead and for now, we're going to put down Tuesday, January 26th as our next meeting date. And of course, I will go ahead and send out some doodles just for the next ones after that. Yes, Dr. Quinn, did you have a concern or question?
Yes, quick question regarding the 26th. What would the time frame be? I'll block that on my schedule.
So if it's, and I'm guessing that COVID is still going to be around, so we'll be online again. So if 9 o'clock worked for everybody today and that's still okay, I would love to go ahead and just put it down for 9 a.m., which means, our members jump on a little bit early. So 8:30, and I would say, without knowing what the agenda items are currently, I would say at least until 1 or 2 o'clock. Okay, does anybody have any concerns with the Tuesday, January 26th date? We're good with that? All right. I don't.
Looks like everyone's in agreement. It's fantastic.
Perfect.
Is this an area that we need to ask for public comment?
Sabina.
No, this, oh, sorry. If you can hear me. No, this is not, unless we have any people from the public who would like to suggest future agenda items, but other than that, on the dates, no.
Perfect.
Wonderful. So that was actually our last agenda item. I just want to make sure there are no more questions or comments before we adjourn the meeting. So I'm just going to pause for about a full minute to see if anyone has anything else to say.
Great. And for anybody on the line that's watching, right now, the Naturopathic Medicine Committee's contact information is on the screen. So if you have any questions or concerns, you definitely can contact the committee at any time.
So I see no raised hands amongst our panelists. So at this time, I'm going to adjourn this December 1st, 2020 meeting of the Naturopathic Medical Committee. It is 12:19 p.m. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules to be here.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you.